Captain Leora Reyes stood at the helm of Sol's Aegis, staring at the view beyond the glass. The stars blinked in distant, indifferent silence, and yet something about the quiet unsettled her. It was the kind of silence that came before the storm, the kind that hinted at the chaos the galaxy had been carefully avoiding for eons. "Captain, we've picked up the signal again." Lieutenant Kalen's voice broke through her thoughts. He was hunched over the communications console, his brow furrowed in concentration. His tone was tight, worried. Leora shifted her gaze to the display. A series of broken fragments, static, corrupted data, garbled words, scrolled across the screen. But among the noise, she could make out something unmistakable, the unmistakable echo of a plea for help. "Source?" Leora asked, her voice calm despite the storm of questions swirling inside her. She had seen these signals before, desperate cries from the fringes of space, where the galaxy's more unsavory forces operated without consequence. But this signal felt different. It wasn't a random distress call from a pirate attack or a lost vessel. This was something more. "Ulith Prime," Kalen said, glancing up with wide eyes. "A mining colony in the Outer Rim. It's a Vesari settlement." Leora's pulse quickened. The Vesari were a peaceful species, peaceful to the point of vulnerability. They had never known war or strife. Their entire civilization was built around harmony with nature, using technology only to augment their world, never to conquer or exploit others. For them to send out a signal like this meant they were facing a threat far beyond their capacity to handle. "Can we get a clearer reading?" Leora asked, her voice sharp. Lieutenant Kalen shook his head. "It's intermittent. There's a severe interference in their system, likely from a weaponized energy pulse. They're being blocked by something." He paused, his fingers dancing over the console. "Wait, I can amplify it a little. Stand by." The static shifted, and suddenly, a coherent message filtered through. It was barely audible, but Leora could make out one haunting phrase. "The Rizal are coming." Leora froze. The Rizal. The mere mention of them sent a shiver down her spine. The Rizal Dominion was a brutal empire of warlords and slavers, a species feared and despised by almost every corner of the galaxy. They thrived on terror, subjugation, and conquest. Entire worlds had been lost to their cruelty. Her mind raced. The Rizal were notorious for raiding the outer colonies, taking entire populations as slaves to work in their mines and factories. But why now? Why the Vesari? Why was their distress signal being sent so close to the edge of the galaxy? "Prepare the ship for a jump to Ulith Prime," Leora said, her voice cold and calculated. "We leave now." There was a heavy silence in the room as her orders sank in. A moment of hesitation. They all knew the consequences of interfering in galactic affairs, especially with the Rizal. But Leora had made her decision. The time for diplomacy was over. She wasn't about to let the Vesari, peaceful, defenseless, and trapped, fall to the merciless hands of the Rizal. As the hum of the engines began to fill the air, Leora glanced one last time at the starfield beyond. A storm was coming, and Sol's Aegis would be its spearhead. The journey to Ulith Prime was a tense one. Sol's Aegis surged through the depths of space, its engines humming a steady, almost mechanical rhythm. Leora Reyes stood at the helm, her hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the swirling cosmos ahead. Her thoughts raced. What could possibly have brought the Rizal to such a peaceful world? And why hadn't anyone in the galactic community intervened? "Captain, we'll be entering the Ulith system in 15 minutes. Kalen's voice broke the silence. He was seated at the navigation console, fingers dancing across the controls. His voice was calm, but Leora could hear the edge of concern in it. They were going in blind. "Understood. Prepare for full sensor sweep and ensure weapons are at the ready," Leora ordered. She turned to face her crew. There was no turning back now. "We don't know what we're walking into. Stay alert." As the ship plunged deeper into the system, The first signs of Ulith Prime emerged from the dark void. A pale blue-green planet encircled by a belt of asteroids, its surface dotted with cities and sprawling fields. From orbit, it seemed like a tranquil paradise, an idyllic world where nothing should disturb the peace. But Leora knew better. Peace was a fragile thing, especially in the outer rim. "Something's wrong," Kalen muttered, his brow furrowing. The sensors on his console flickered erratically, the readings jumping wildly. "I'm picking up unusual energy signatures. This isn't just interference. There's a pattern to it. Something's jamming our approach." Lyora's gut twisted. "That's them," she muttered. The rise hall must have set up a blockade. The thought was chilling. If the Dominion was deploying that kind of technology, they had already prepared for an invasion. And the Vesari would be caught in the middle of it. Captain, Ensign Ilya, the communications officer, spoke up. Her voice was tight with tension. "I've decrypted the last of the distress message. There's more. An address. They said to find the Echo Temple. It's near the Vesari capital." Lyora's eyes narrowed. The Echo Temple was an ancient structure, a sacred site to the Vesari, a place of peace, built to honor their ancestors and maintain balance with nature. To send such a cryptic message meant that whoever had sent it was either desperate or trying to conceal something. "We need to get there. Fast," Leora said. "Ilya, broadcast a warning to any Vesari ships in orbit. Tell them to stay hidden." Kalen, plot a course for the Echo Temple. A few moments of silence passed as the crew quickly carried out her orders, but the sense of urgency was palpable. The calmness of the planet's surface seemed a world apart from the chaos they were about to face. As Sol's Aegis descended through the atmosphere, Leora watched the planet's surface growing larger on the viewscreen. The once beautiful world now felt suffocating, shrouded in a heavy, oppressive silence. The jungle-lined mountains, once peaceful, were now thick with the smoke of distant fires. The Vesari cities, once a symbol of prosperity, were now dark and empty, abandoned. The planet was on the brink. "We're about to make contact with the temple's location," Kalen reported, his voice steady, but Leora could hear the unease in it. "Activating stealth protocols now." The ship's cloaking systems engaged, and Sol's Aegis moved swiftly toward the temple, its silhouette vanishing from the sensors of any potential enemy. But even under cover, the sense of impending doom weighed heavily on Leora's chest. As they neared the Echo Temple, the transmission suddenly went silent. The Vesari's last words were no longer coming through. The galaxy's fragile hopes for peace rested now on the shoulders of a single crew, as humanity prepared to face its first real test as a protector of the powerless. The Echo Temple emerged from the misty jungle below, an ancient structure carved from stone and time, its weathered surface glistening in the light of the planet's twin suns. Despite its beauty, there was no mistaking the tension in the air. The Vesari were gone. The once vibrant energy of the place now felt hollow, echoes of a civilization on the brink of extinction. Touching down in 3, 2, 1, Kalen's voice crackled over the comms. Sol's Aegis made a silent landing, its stealth systems keeping it hidden from prying eyes. The crew moved quickly but cautiously, ready for whatever lay ahead. Lyora's boots hit the dirt of the jungle with a soft thud. The air was thick with moisture, the heat pressing against her like a physical force. The temple loomed ahead, its towering stone pillars half sunken into the earth, a relic of a lost age. "Captain, the ground is clear," Lieutenant Commander Tarek said, his hand resting on the hilt of his pulse rifle. "We've secured the perimeter. No signs of immediate threats." Leora nodded. "Let's move. Everyone, stay sharp." They trekked through the jungle, weaving through dense foliage that seemed to close in around them. The Vesari's absence was deafening. The once communal, peaceful world now felt as though it had been abandoned by life itself. As they reached the steps leading up to the temple, a low hum began to vibrate in the air, as though the structure itself was alive with energy. "I don't like this," Tarek muttered, his voice taut. "It feels like a trap." "Stay focused," Leora ordered, her hand on her weapon. "We're not here to hunt. We're here to protect." The door to the temple groaned open on its own, revealing a vast chamber bathed in a soft, golden light. The walls were lined with intricate carvings of Vesari history, scenes of peace, unity, and prosperity. But something had changed. The carvings were now marked with the unmistakable signs of violence, cuts and gouges made by sharp tools, not the hands of peace. At the center of the room, a holographic projection flickered to life, displaying the face of Dr. Mavic Tharn, the Vesari xenoarchaeologist who had sent the distress signal. "Captain Reyes," the image said, her voice crackling with static. "If you're seeing this, then you've arrived too late. The Rizal Dominion has already begun their invasion. They've taken our people, and they will not stop until we're all enslaved." Leora's heart sank. She had feared this outcome, but hearing it in Mavic's voice brought the reality crashing down. "They'll enslave the Vesari," Leora whispered to herself. "Turn them into laborers. There's no hope if we don't act fast." The projection continued. "I've hidden the last of our technology, the key to our survival, in the ancient crypt beneath the temple. If you can retrieve it, you may have a chance to stop them. But hurry, the Rizal are already close. They'll be here soon." The projection flickered one last time and cut out, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. "Do we know what this technology is?" Tarek asked, his voice tense. Leora turned, her eyes hard. "I don't know. But if Mavic's right, it's our only chance to stop the Rizal from getting everything they want." Just then, the unmistakable sound of ships overhead broke the stillness. Low, guttural hums that vibrated through the ground beneath them. The Rizal were already here. "Prepare for incoming fire," Leora snapped. "We can't let them reach the temple." The crew quickly readied their weapons, but Leora knew the stakes had changed. This wasn't just about protecting a single planet anymore. If they failed, the entire galaxy could fall under Rizal domination, and humanity's rise as protectors of the galaxy would be tested in the fires of war. The ground shook beneath their feet as the Rizal ships descended from the sky, their massive, sleek forms casting long shadows over the jungle. Sol's Aegis was hidden for now, but the temple, its sanctuary of peace, was exposed. The Rizal had arrived. Lyra's hand instinctively gripped the pulse rifle slung across her chest. The crew was spread out, taking positions along the temple's crumbling stone columns, watching the skies for any sign of attack. But even with their advanced weapons and the protection of the temple's ancient walls, the odds felt impossibly stacked against them. "They're deploying ground forces," Tarek reported, his voice sharp through the comms. "Hundreds of them, coming down through the jungle, likely to secure the area. They're not just here for the Vesari, they're here for us." Lyra's heart pounded in her chest. If the Rizal knew they were after something hidden beneath the temple, they wouldn't stop until it was in their hands. The projection from Mavic had made it clear. The key to stopping the Rizal, whatever it was buried beneath their feet. "Get to the crypt," Leora commanded. "Now." As the crew moved to make their way through the narrow, winding corridors beneath the temple, Leora's mind raced. What was this technology Mavic had spoken of? Could it truly be the key to stopping an empire like the Rizal? They had to find it before the invaders reached them. The walls around them seemed to close in, the air thick with dust and age. The temple's interior was a labyrinth of ancient stone, its corridors winding deeper into the heart of the planet. They moved quickly, but cautiously, the sound of their boots echoing through the hollow chamber. "We're almost there," Kalen said, checking his tracker. "The crypt should be directly ahead." But as they rounded a corner, the ground shook once more. A massive explosion ripped through the jungle above them, and the temple's ancient doors rattled violently. The Rizal had begun their assault. "Move, move, move," Leora barked, urging the crew forward. The echo of Rizal shouts and battle cries reached their ears, and she knew they didn't have much time. At last, they reached the crypt, a large, circular chamber, illuminated by the eerie glow of ancient Vesari rooms that pulsed with faint light. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, adorned with strange symbols, and on it, an object unlike anything Leora had ever seen. A small crystalline sphere, no bigger than her fist, floating above the pedestal. "This is it," Tarek whispered, awe and disbelief in his voice. Leora stepped forward cautiously, her eyes locked on the sphere. It seemed to hum with an energy that resonated deep in her chest, like it was alive in some way. Just as she extended her hand toward it, a sudden voice echoed through the crypt, familiar, but distant. "Don't touch it." Leora froze, her hand halting inches from the sphere. The voice was not from her crew, nor from the Vesari. It was a voice she hadn't heard in years, a voice from her past. It was Admiral Vance, the former leader of Earth's military forces, the same man who had vanished into the void of space years ago, presumed dead. "Leora," the voice whispered, its tone filled with regret. "The power within that relic, it's not what you think." The chamber grew darker, the air thickening as the sphere pulsed stronger. But before Leora could respond, an explosion rocked the temple, and the walls around them began to tremble. The Rizal were already inside. "We're out of time," Tarek shouted. "The Rizal will be here any second." Leora's heart pounded in her chest, torn between the mysterious warning and the desperate need to protect her crew. The object was their only hope of surviving the coming war, but at what cost? With no choice left, she reached out and gripped the sphere. The moment Leora's fingers made contact with the crystal sphere, the chamber erupted in light. It was as though the very heart of the planet had been awakened, its pulse reverberating through the walls, the floor, and into her bones. A surge of energy, warm yet overwhelming, flooded her mind. Her vision blurred for a moment, and she stumbled back, her body shaking as the light intensified. The crypt seemed to stretch, to twist around her, as though the very space itself was bending. She felt a presence, something ancient, vast, and infinitely powerful, reaching out through the sphere. "Leora." The voice of Admiral Vance echoed in her mind again, not a whisper, but a command, a plea. "Do not let it control you." But it was too late. The energy had already taken hold, her senses overwhelmed by the sheer force of the connection. In the blink of an eye, her consciousness expanded, and she could feel the entire galaxy around her. The stars, the planets, the ships in motion, the lives of every sentient being, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. The power of the vessel, of the relic, coursed through her like wildfire. "Leora Reyes, you are now the vessel's chosen." A booming voice rumbled within her mind, resonating with the weight of ancient knowledge. It was not the voice of Admiral Vance, but something older, more primal, something beyond time itself. "You, who carry the legacy of humanity, shall be the harbinger of balance." The words made no sense. The galaxy felt as if it was breathing with her, in synchrony. Her hands trembled, but she could not look away from the sphere. Its glow was now a deep blue, swirling with patterns of light and darkness, an intricate dance of energy that felt both alive and dead at once. Leora forced herself to focus. "What is this?" She managed to think through the overwhelming torrent of sensations. Why me? Why humanity? The presence was silent for a heartbeat, then responded with an answer that shattered her understanding of reality. "The Vesari have hidden the vessel, a weapon, a key, and a power source, in the event of the Rizal's rise. But it is no ordinary weapon. It is the vessel of all civilizations, the key to preserving life, and the force that can either save or destroy the galaxy." The realization hit her like a tidal wave. This was no mere relic. It was the essence of life itself. A weapon, yes, but one tied to the very fabric of existence. Humanity had unknowingly become the galaxy's last hope, its only chance against the encroaching Rizal dominion. They had been chosen by fate, not by their own will. But the cost of wielding such power was steep. Use it wisely, Captain, the voice continued. The Rizal seek not just domination of your people, but control over this vessel's power. You will not be alone in your struggle, but you must act quickly. The galaxy's fate is now yours to command. The energy inside Leora surged again, and for a moment, she felt as though she were no longer herself. She saw everything, the past, the future, all the possibilities converging into one terrifying reality. Her body was trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer magnitude of what she now carried within her. Captain. Tarek's voice broke through her haze, his shout filled with concern. The Rizal are here. They're storming the temple. Leora blinked, returning to herself just as the energy from the sphere began to fade. She staggered, her mind racing, still trying to process what had just happened. Get out of here. We're leaving now, Leora ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling in her chest. The crew had already begun to regroup, weapons raised, eyes darting for threats. The power of the vessel was now part of her, whether she was ready or not. We have a galaxy to save. The temple shook again as another explosion rocked its ancient walls. The Rizal had breached the perimeter, and their war machines were closing in fast. But as the last of the light from the sphere faded, Leora Reyes stood tall, her body still buzzing with the raw, untamed power she now possessed. She could feel the weight of it, an overwhelming force that threatened to consume her, yet somehow grounded her in ways she couldn't explain. Captain, Tarek shouted, his voice tight with urgency. We need to move. Now. Leora snapped out of the reverie the sphere had thrust her into. The battle was here. Her crew was counting on her. The galaxy was counting on her. On your feet, people, she barked, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. We don't have time to stand around. Get to the extraction point. Sol's Aegis is ready to leave the atmosphere. The crew scrambled, rechecking their weapons and moving toward the temple's exit, their faces set in grim determination. Leora felt the connection to them, as though their fates had intertwined with hers in this singular, defining moment. She could feel their fear, their hopes, but most of all, their trust. And she couldn't afford to break it. But the Rizal weren't far behind. The temple's walls groaned as another blast struck its foundations. The Rizal warships above had already begun their descent, their guns aimed at the heart of the jungle, ready to raze everything in their path. Leora's mind raced. She had the vessel's power, but she still had no clear idea how to control it. The ancient voice, the being that had spoken to her within the sphere, had said she would be the harbinger of balance. But what did that mean? Was she supposed to fight with this power, or was it something more? Something far more intricate and dangerous. She shook off the thoughts. She didn't have time for self-doubt. The Rizal were relentless, and if she hesitated now, it would be the last mistake she ever made. Tarek, take point, she ordered. Kalen, get the rear. Everyone else, keep moving. The crew spread out, taking defensive positions as they made their way through the jungle. The dense foliage offered some cover, but it wouldn't be enough. The Rizal would flush them out soon enough. And once that happened, the only option left would be a fight to the death. Captain, we're getting interference. Ilya's voice crackled over the comms. Our ship's systems are being jammed by something. It's like they've got some kind of pulse weapon targeting our systems. Leora cursed under her breath. The Rizal had come prepared. Their technology was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, but she had something they didn't. Let me try something, Leora muttered, closing her eyes for a moment. She focused on the hum within her, the energy that still pulsed through her veins. It was more than just power. It was knowledge, ancient and vast, ready to be unlocked. The vessel had spoken to her. It had told her she was the vessel's chosen. She reached out with her mind, trying to tap into the energy once more. The hum grew louder, and a strange sense of clarity washed over her. The interference, the jamming signals. They were vulnerable. exposed. Ilya raised the ship's shields to full capacity. Kalen, prepare for a pulse jump. Once I give the word, we're going to burn the Rajal signals out of the sky. The crew exchanged glances, confused but trusting. Understood, Captain, Kalen replied. Lyra felt the power surge in her chest again. There was no turning back now. She had made the choice. The vessel's power was hers, and she would use it. For the Veseri, for humanity, for the galaxy. The Rajal wouldn't take this world. And they would soon learn that humanity was no longer just a passive species in the galaxy's game. They would fight, they would resist, and they would rise. Get ready. It's time to show the Rajal what it means to challenge us.